Hi folks, here we are. Can you believe another live show? Boy, we come in every week. It seems to come around quicker and quicker. And of course, yeah, I had a show with Edwin yesterday as well. So effectively, it's double duty this week, but nevertheless, that's good. So hope everybody's well. Just run this for a moment or two to let people find their way in on time. How things out there in Oz? We got autumnal temperatures here now, and of course we had a time change over the weekend, so it's earlier here than normal, but that's okay, we'll get used to it. In terms of the dogs, they're still there in dozy mode, had their walks, had their breakfast, so hopefully they'll be quiet. And for those who are interested, studio as normal. Edwin's over there queued up ready to come in, as you can see, and you can see the other things we've got going on, including the chat and other bits and pieces. And streamers think's working okay, so that's good. Technically, I think we're okay, so that's excellent. And we're good to go, I think, pretty much. Hope everybody's well in the chat, and good to see the old faithfuls. Jason's just dropped in. Hi, Jason. Good to see you there too. Hope you're well. And we might just put that out, shall we? Seeing it's there you go. Jump for Joy says highlight of the week, and Marcel says hello doggos. Very good. Yep, the dog is an important part of the show here. Right, I'm going to take the pre-show off. I'm going to start the show properly, so I'll be back in just a moment. Well, good evening and welcome to this live stream on the 29th of October 2024. It's Martin North here from Digital Finance Analytics. Great to have you on tonight. And thanks very much for taking some of your Tuesday evening out to spend it with Edwin and myself. Now, we're going to talk this evening about the whole question of real estate agents and do we need them in the current environment? You know, the technology's moved on. Not all real estate agents are the same. There are some goodies and there are also some baddies, and who are they working for anyway? So some of those questions will come out tonight, and we'll be talking about the strategy around that. Just before we get into that, remind you as normal that we don't provide specific advice, either financial, property or legal here, general conversation only. We moderate the chat, but invite you to put your comments and questions in. Just watch what you say, please. We do moderate. And we also invite you to use Walk the World if you've got a specific question that you'd like to throw at Edwin or myself. That'll get to the top of the queue, and more likely we'll see it. We don't follow everything that's going on in the chat because there's just so much going on. We've also enabled Super Chat, which means that if you want to get to a question to the top of the list, you can do that, or indeed make a contribution to what we do around here. And as I often say, we don't do this for profit. We do this because we think there's a really, really important conversation to be had at the moment. So let's get rid of that. And going to bring Edwin straight in. Edwin, how are you going?
I'm doing well, Martin. How are you?
Yeah, very good. 2 days in a row. Can you cope?
Oh, certainly can, especially if it's for a good cause. We've got to, get our followers and our viewers up to speed with what agents do or not do. There's such a high level of distrust toward the industry. I mean, is it any wonder the real estate industry is ranked, I think, 47 out of 50 professions. And that could even be globally. So, something like that in Australia. But look, at the end of the day, I think that's what we're going to uncover or unravel today, and that is who do the selling agents really work for? Do they work for the vendor or do they work for themselves? And what is the motivation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And I guess it's worth saying, Edwin, that not all real estate agents are the same, right? So we have people attached to the large groups like Ray White or, you can think of quite a few others as well, or indeed individual. Yeah. So the point is that there's quite a range. And so when we talk generally about agents' behavior, not all agents behave the same. But it is interesting. I've had, over the last month, at least 6 people pose me the question, do I really need a real estate agent to sell my property? Can I not do it without them? And so that's what we're going to explore tonight. And you're going to take us through the sort of the process that you go through and some of the issues that you might touch on. And there is a sort of series of steps, right? From deciding that you want to do something, trying to work out what the value might be, work out, I don't know, the timing, method of sale. How do you get the marketing done? What about the legals? I mean, there's a bunch of issues that need to be thought through. And I guess that's the reason why, up till quite recently, agents have tended to be in the box seat. Although it's worth noting, of course, that if you were to do it yourself, you couldn't now necessarily list on the major property portals, which some would see as perhaps a disadvantage too. So what's the thinking process, Edwin? And how do we sort of turn this conversation into something that could be useful in terms of people thinking about alternatives?
Well, look, first and foremost, I think what we need to understand in as you said, in not everybody, but in the majority, sadly enough, it's an industry that is pretty much it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all about a trust that people put on an individual that is meant to be licensed and is meant to give advice, property advice, selling advice, marketing advice, preparation, presentation advice, and be able to negotiate on behalf of the vendor. But you and I and our viewers know, in the most part, not all, but in the most part, it's not about the best interest of the vendor as much as it is the best interest of the back pocket, and hence the reason why we're here. Hence the reason why we have the following that we have, and hence the reason why I get castigated by my peers from your CEOs and CFOs of the major brands. Look. The unfortunate thing is, because there are bad apples, and there are more bad apples in the basket than there are good apples. That's the unfortunate thing. What real estate agents get taught, and more so I've noticed that in the newer generation of real estate agents, it's not about achieving the best price. It's not about the methodology of achieving the best price for the vendor or for the client, but it's more so, how do you get the listing? So we've gone from looking after a client, looking after the person, the individual that's paying you, to, as I said, looking after your back pocket. And so the training has gone away from what we would consider back in the day the normal things that you did as a profession in looking after the best interest of your client. But now, what the training is all about, how to persuade the individual to list with you. Because once they've got you, and this is what a lot of people need to understand. Once they've got you for that period of that term of 3 months. I mean, I've spoken about that, and I've questioned that period in the past, because effectively, when you read all the articles, you read the mainstream, you talk to agents, they say, I can sell the house in a week, I can sell the house in 3 weeks, I can sell the house in 4 weeks, I sold this one in 3 days, I sold this one in a day, and all that. I mean, all sorts of questions should be going through people's mind. If there's such a high demand for property, why is the turnover so, in terms of period, why is it so quick? Right, when one would think that the negotiation process should be a little bit longer in order to achieve a greater price, right? So there's a lot of anomalies in that, and also my biggest bugbear, and I say to a lot of my clients that are looking, that we assist them with the sales process. We don't do the sale ourselves, but we help them and assist them through a process, which I'll share a little bit more about later on in the show. But we say, and when we interview the agents that are going to be potentially taking carriage of the marketing campaign, we make sure that we go down to either an 8-week, or if need be, a 10-week marketing campaign, exclusive agency arrangement, because if they don't achieve a sale within a certain period of time in this market, in the market that we're in, well, something's going to miss. Something is not right. But the unfortunate thing, Martin, is going back is what they're taught, how they're taught, and as I said, the main emphasis is on getting the listing, because once they've got you for 12 weeks. They've got you for 3 months, an exclusive arrangement and quite frankly, there were periods within a market, within seasons that you could negotiate the terms, and that is also you'd negotiate the commission. But obviously tonight is more about how to sell your own property. So I guess we can start with the basic point, and something that I've been talking about for a very, very long time. And I've had a lot of videos up which I've downloaded from YouTube. When I had the office, I used to make up a lot of different tips and hints as to what people need to do. And the first thing is the first point, the first cab off the rank, in my opinion, is always the preparation. Which we can agree with. The preparation is the beginning, because it starts with creating the desire, creating a want, creating a must-have, and also peace of mind in the mind of the purchaser. That's your starting point.
Yeah, and talking about preparation, I think there's two angles to this. The first is, I think back to my situation when I decided to sell my property in the Illawarra. There was change in personal circumstances, and there was a sort of a feeling of a need to sort of move on, as it were. But then there was also the question of trying to figure out how to prepare the property for sale, and how much work to do, and all of those things. Now, I must tell you that the agents that I spoke to a few, had really little to tell me about how to prepare the property, other than clean the windows. So that was interesting. And in terms of actually trying to figure out whether to put the property on the market or not, well, that was ultimately my decision. But one of my questions was, so what do I need to do in terms of, getting it ready to go to market, but also what is the price point? What am I likely to expect? And I got a massive range from the various agents that I spoke with as to the expectation. Some were way over the top. I felt others were probably undercooking it. And so it's quite hard to sort of get a benchmark to know, even at the outset, what the journey is going to look like.
Yeah, look, I've said for quite a number of decades, pretty much since I've been in the real estate industry, I've said you don't really need a real estate agent or a selling agent in order to give your property away, right? You don't need it. You could do it yourself comfortably. Why pay a real estate agent? What the average commission right now in Sydney is around the 1.5%. And when you talk about the average the average value of a property in the Sydney region, let's say of a home, you're looking at 1.75. So do the math. So you don't need to give that much away. You don't need to. If you want to give your property away, you don't need a real estate agent to do it for you. You can do it yourself comfortably without having to pay somebody on top of that for the privilege. I also say you don't need to pay a buyer's agent a fee, because that's a territory that we're covering predominantly now. You don't need to pay a buyer's agency fee. If all they're going to do is pay premium for a property that's going to end up costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars to rectify in the future. You could do it yourself. You could go to the auction and throw your hand up in the air and be the last one. Be the last one to throw the paddle up in the air, and you're gonna get it. So you're going to pay over the odds, and so in both instances, you don't really need the so-called professional and pay him a huge fee. So to set the ground, what do agents earn? And again, this is something that I've been sharing for a very long time and keeping track of the commission structures, predominantly around Sydney. From time to time, I venture out and look at this commission structures, in other states, what they're doing. But predominantly in the Sydney region and greater region area, the commission structure on average right now is 1.5%. So when you start extrapolating the numbers and we start looking at what a real estate agent does to sell your property, and you start talking averages, it's quite alarming. So when you break it down to average hours spent on a property, from the let's say the photography right to the settlement, it's I've clocked it at on average about 17 hours. So 17 hours, then you multiply 1.5 into 1,700,000 and 1.5% into 1,750,000. You get your figure from that, and then you divide that by 17 hours. That's what you're paying your real estate agent. That's the fee, which equates to around about $1,500 per hour. I mean, there are some really really learned barristers that don't earn half that much on an hourly basis, and they do a hell of a lot of study. I mean, there are some professors, there are some all sorts of other professions that they spend anywhere from 6 years to 12 years, especially in the medical field, to become experts that don't earn that much per hour. But this is what you're paying them. So what are you getting? So we go back to step one. Step one is the preparation. And as you said, a lot of the agents don't look at the process methodically. They just, because all the laser focus is on how quickly can I get this person's property on the market? How quickly can I sell it? How quickly can I put that commission in my pocket to pay my overheads? That's the friend of mind thought. So preparation, in my view, is one of the major pillars. Because, as I said, it all starts there in your preparation, because you want to the property become desirable. You want it to become a must-have, and you want to also give the buyer peace of mind that they bought something that they feel good about, right? So, but you have to also decide, Martin, what are you going to do in order to prepare? How far are you going to go? Are you going to prepare the house? Are you going to give it a quick lick of paint? Are you going to just give it a quick makeover, or are you going to do a full reno in order to achieve the best price? So, we work with certain, because of my background understanding of renovating and construction and building and so forth, I work on the premise that if I am going to spend $1, I want, 2 and more in return for the effort. That's a simple rule of thumb. Obviously, often cases it equates to a lot. It equates to a lot more, because you're creating that desire, creating that emotional attachment that the person that's going to inspect the property, is going to, be building up. They're the building blocks that you're going to create, the emotional building blocks that you want to create in the purchaser's mind. So that's the first thing you've got to consider. Then, obviously, with that, in the preparation, and you start thinking about renovations, and a lot of people's minds start sort of thinking, well, hell, tradespeople are charging an arm and a leg, and therefore you don't have that you may not have the networks. But you've got to be prepared. You've got to prepare yourself early. You can't just go out on a whim and let Lady Luck take over when you go out on the market. Because if you're not prepared, you're not going to achieve, and the property isn't prepared, you're not going to achieve the best or the optimum price for your property. So the question is when do first impressions when do people start getting the first impression? And some would say that it's when they attend the house. I would say that it's the photography and the presentation, the online presentation, because that's what people see first. And one of our things is when we're going through different areas and different suburbs, we look at the way the properties are presented online, to determine as to which ones we sort of start attending first, to try and get a deal for our clients. Now, as a buyer's agent, obviously we're trying to get a much better deal from the selling agent or in the vendor for our clients. So they're the things that we need to consider is the preparation, and you have to give yourself time. Obviously, some people for one reason or another don't have a lot of time to prepare, and they don't have the networks to help them to prepare. But there are simple things that you could do, like declutter. As I said, a quick lick of paint, putting things away, staging. A lot of these, the staging companies, a lot of the people that help you to stage a property, they're open for. They're not exclusive to real estate agents. Obviously, they charge a fee. A staging company will charge anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 for a full furniture package of a 4-bedroom house to be set in play for 4 to 6 weeks. A stylist will charge anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 just to come and style your house with your own furnishings, or they may provide soft furnishings themselves to help you style the house for the photography in order to have a better presentation online. One of the things that you've got to consider is you've got to style, renovate, or even just give it a quick makeover, not necessarily based on your need, on your taste, but that of the general populace, that broader spectrum. I mean, hey, I like the color yellow, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to paint every single bedroom in my house yellow in order to sell it. I mean, I think yellow's funky. I mean, yellow Porsches go a lot quicker. Yellow Ferraris and Lamborghinis, they go a lot faster than red. But unfortunately, yellow's not everybody's cup of tea. So simple makeover is what has to, the decision, the preparation has to be decided whether it's going to be a simple makeover or a full renovation. Now, it could mean that a property requires a full renovation margin in order to achieve the optimum price because it's so run down. But you've got to do the math. You've got to do the math on the value of as is to a value post the renovation, and work out how much you're going to spend on the makeover or renovation to determine your return on investment.
Yeah, and one of the key questions that comes up, of course, right up front is what is it worth, right? And it's actually quite complex to try and figure out what the answer to that question is. Obviously, you can get reports in the neighborhood or reports in the particular location, and you can spend quite a lot of money by buying those reports. Most of the real estate agents, when they actually give you an appraisal, will include some of that information in the appraisal. They won't necessarily be able to talk about their own experience only because they may not have sold much in the immediate area. They may have sold quite a lot, but who knows? But they tend to use that same information. So that information is sort of there. But a lot of it is not publicly available. And you might have seen recently the move towards no information being put on the portals as to what happened with regard to property. Now, in some places, you can get the data for free. In New South Wales, for example, you can go to the Valuer General and you can actually pull out information for a particular street and see all the prices that were actually achieved over the last year or 2 or 3 or 4. Not all states have the same. So in some cases, the whole thing's been privatized, which means that information is less easily available. And I think it's a major problem, by the way, that information isn't available. I think it should be available. And then, of course, the other problem is if you start talking to agents, as we've said before, you've got those who actually puff you up because they want to get the business. So they actually give you a very high quote. There are others that are perhaps a bit more realistic, and there may be some who are actually a little bit more on the downside. So many people will automatically jump then to oh, you think you can get me more, so I'm going to go with you. But then, of course, as we've discussed on many occasions, you've then got the underquoting or the bait advertising, as we now call it, right, that comes through. And then you've got this massive tussle between the expectation that was set initially and then what actually happens when the offer comes in significantly below the expectation. But in terms of actually, if you are somebody who is thinking that they want to sell their property and don't want to engage with an agent about price, what are the best mechanisms to be able to actually figure out what the value might be?
To me, I know to a lot of people it sounds very complicated, but to me it hasn't been. And this is because the way we got taught, and I guess again because of my background in the amount of properties that we bought over the years, we bought and sold and renovated and did all sorts of things, and it helped others to do the same, and family and friends and clients, and managed the 28 to 35 years. Involved around this, you sort of get the feel. But back in the day when I started, there's a science. I mean, that's where you've got valuers, right? And they do a 4-year degree in order to be able to ascertain the value of property. But it's not that complicated when you think about it. If you look at the mechanics of it, if you look at the science of it, it's work out the parcel of land, how many square meters in the parcel of land. You've got the value general. You've got local local governments sources that you can work out what the value of land is. Obviously, they're going to be skewed downward in a lot of cases, but there's your starting point. Your square meterage, your parcel of land. Obviously, with the parcel of land, you've got to then identify: what sort of frontage does it have? What potential does it have? Does it have a potential for development? What zone is it? Does it land on? Is it R2, R3, R4? What's the council doing in terms of future development proposals? Are they going to, has somebody gone in there with a brown paper bag of late and from your neighbourhood and your whole area is going to get re-gazetted? All this sort of stuff. This is what we do. This is what I would do, and this is what we used to do. What I used to do more often when we were selling properties for clients running the office from a selling point of view. And this is what agents and the seasoned agents will do and still do, but most now don't. That they rely on websites that agents subscribe to, paid websites that you get the information. Although it lags a bit, you've got that, but you've also got portals, websites like you mentioned earlier on, like your Ray Whites and your McGraths and other main franchise groups that share the data instantaneously throughout the networks, and they're able to see what was what values were achieved before it gets registered in the Value General's with the Value General's office, and it's freely available to the general public. That could take anywhere between 72 to 90 days. Now, but let me say this, Martin, when somebody is looking at selling their home, when someone's looking at selling their property, I'd be foolish to think that they are not versed with what's happening in their own immediate area, and this is where a lot of vendors now are a little bit more savvy, because if you're thinking of selling, as I said, in most cases it's not an overnight decision. Oh shit! You wake up, you go to bed with late dinner, and you wake up The next day, we're having nightmares, and you think, "Oh shit, I've got to sell the house." No, it doesn't work like that. It's something that a lot of people are going to the local market. They are seeing what agents are doing. They're seeing what price is being achieved. They're attending auctions, and that gives a fair value. So an idea of value. So you've got so the general rule of thumb is, as I said, the square meterage of the parcel of land. You work out the value. How many square meters do you have? How, is it the pluses and the minuses? Is it an irregular shape? Is it a sought after shape? Is it almost a perfect rectangle? Are there easements on the parcel? Can you extend the house? Is there an easement running? Where's the sewer line going? What are the easements that are going through the property? You work all that out to work out the value of the parcel of land. Then there's the value of the dwelling that's on it.
But the point there is, I would argue, Edwin, that a lot of agents don't go through that process.
No, they don't. They don't. But 100%, they don't. Yeah. This is what I'm saying. But this is what we do. Yeah. This is what myself and my colleagues, we used to do, we still do to an extent, and this is what us old timers in the industry do. Still, because this is what we got taught, and this is how when we're buying property ourselves, we like to do. We run through these. Call it mathematics. We run through these, through these numbers in order to get the true value of the property. Then, of course, you've got your inclusions of the property, the size of the dwelling on the property, what it's made of, the inclusions. Has it been since they bought? What's been upgraded, what hasn't, what's been neglected, what hasn't. So all these have values, and you add and you subtract. And then at the end of the day, Martin, you've also got to include emotion. Is it an area where the WeChat chatters want to live in? Is it an area where the silent tigers want to live in? Is it an area where the new kids on the block, where the whole families want to live in? All these things have got, there are values to all these to these things. So look, that's a scientific method, and then of course, as I said, then you've got your emotion that you've got to include in that, and as an individual, you've got to walk through the property, regardless of what some websites tell you, regardless of what some people tell you that. Agents can tell the true value of your property, and they'll give you propositions by going on some sort of bullshit app that this and that. I mean, you're going to get led astray with those sort of values. And there are websites that also have predictive values that people are using, and they post on. We shared their post on X, and the values are way off. So you've got to be careful what websites you use, what you use. But then at the end of the day, Martin, if you want to sell the property yourself, right? And this is what the show is about. If you want to sell the property yourself, hey, listen, you got to use all the tools that are available to you. If I wanted to sell my property myself and I wasn't a real estate agent, I didn't understand this, I wasn't in the game, right? I would then call, okay, I'll turn this around. So I've lost track of cars. I used to be in a cars when I was a lot younger, but now I've lost track of cars. So if I've got an old Ford V8, whether it be whatever, I've got an old Mustang, but some tell me it's worth a lot of money, others tell me it's not. It's a rust bucket. I don't know. So what I would do then, if I had this item, this object, if I had this, I would then go and inquire from professionals, whether it be dealers, right? Whether it be dealers or whether it be car enthusiasts, or clubs, they're the professional. They will know. They will have a better point of what the true value of that vehicle is in the state that it's in, right? So why can't you do the same? I know what you said earlier on. They'll try to bamboozle you and they'll try to get your business by telling you it's worth 20, 30% more than what you thought it was. Well, then you were really never going to sell the house yourself, right? You got conned. So you never had a notion. But that's what I do. That's, straight out. You get the professionals and there's nothing wrong with it. And you'll get the enthusiastic ones, and you'll get the melancholy ones, and you'll get the suicidal ones, and you'll get all sorts. The more the merrier, and then you'll be able to. And then with all the other online portals, there's also paid subscriptions to CoreLogic. You can pay a subscription to CoreLogic. You get more data. You can call. You can engage yourself to get an analysis, a deep dive to get a better understanding of what's happening. These are the tools that people have to be empowered with. Or you could DM me, and then I could give you also, you can, as a consultant. That's what we do. That is part of our role as well. But there are tools available for those in other states. If you don't find yourself in Sydney, that you can use, and that's what I would be doing.
Yeah, so the point there is there are a range of tools that are available. You have to do a bit of work to be able to actually uncover the latest data. And a couple of people in the chat have said, well, whatever the price is, it's going to actually be, is somebody prepared to pay it or not? And so the ultimate test is, do you have a buyer? Can you get a buyer, right? Which I guess takes us on to a couple of other points. The first is the presentation of the properties we discussed, but also things like the plan and the photography. Interestingly, when I sold my property, the real estate agent got a photographer and somebody to come and do the plan. So they basically outsourced all of that work to somebody else rather than doing it themselves. So I'm thinking, well, hang on a moment, what are you actually doing then? So they're basically saying, well, I'll bring that guy in to make the plan. I'll get that guy in to take the photographs, and he took some photographs and flew a drone up and got a couple of drone shots as well. Now, presumably, those services are actually accessible and available without necessarily going via the real estate agent.
100%. In Sydney, the average fee is $600, and you get a couple of drone shots as well. Some will give you seven doctored or post-edited photos, spruced up photos of your property. Others will give you 12. Depends what you ask, what you get. You'll get drone shots. You can go all out. You can even do a movie reel if you really want to, which that's what we used to do. I started, I was one of the first agencies in Australia to do movie reels of properties and then put them up on YouTube and then tag them on, because that gives you Google rankings and so forth. So you can do all this, and the fees aren't as high as what used to be to hire these professional property photographers. You just have to ask around, and they're available. At the end of the day, the agency, a job is a job, and when it's highly competitive and there's a lot of them around, a job is a job, and even if they charge a little bit more, that's what you would do. Now, unless you're a photographic enthusiast, well, then you do it. Then you do it yourself. But these guys, you can certainly get them. The other things is, in terms of marketing. Okay, there's the photography. Do you really need a signboard? I don't believe you do need a signboard. As a matter of fact, I think it's about 15 years ago, I did a video do you really need a signboard? And this is whilst I had the active real estate office, and I was selling, because the signboard is predominantly there to market the agent that's selling the property and not yourself. And guess what? You pay for the thing. you pay, $600 for that signboard to be plastered on your front yard, and when most of the advertising is for the agency and the agent and not your property. Most of the people, I mean, you don't drive around, Sydney looking around neighbourhoods looking for signboards. I mean, you do it all online.
Yeah.
and I mean, this is what I've been saying for a very long time. I can't remember what I did. It's in one of my YouTube channels somewhere, that video. So the signboard, obviously brochures. Yeah, look, I recommend you get brochures. And again, you can go to the local printing shops. You can get those done. You can use AI to do a lot of this stuff as well, to do the copy. You can get it all done through online through AI. There's some marvelous tools on there that you can get done. Even the copy is you can run that through different free websites online, and you get you just have to make them suit, because there are a lot of them are very much Americanized. You make them suit the area that you're in. The portals is the most important thing. Getting on the portals, getting on domain and real estate. That is key. The unfortunate thing is, as you raised earlier on, is that we don't have that ability now. We used to. I don't know how long ago they changed, but one of the main portals would allow private ads to go on, and that since changed. Now you need to do it through either a licensed agent that's got an account with them, but there are websites that you can use. Now the websites provide with signage, they provide with brochures, they give you all sorts of paraphernalia. I'm not sure what the fees are. They used to be around $1,500 to $2,500, but it also depends on what type of ad you want. You want online. Like I said, I'm not up to date with the websites. You've got Buy My Place, you've got Sell My Own House, For Sale by Owner, and there's a couple of others that linger around as well. But I'm not sure what the fees are, and they give you a lot of tools. But the main thing is that they'll give you access to use their back end to drop your photos, videos, whatever on the domain and real estate portal. But look, you need to do it. Obviously, you need to attract the viewers. You need to attract the buyers, and that's that is where most of the people will be looking at. And you've got to be on both. Again, I don't know what the fees are that they charge. I know that premium ads that agents basically get you on at the beginning. On average across Sydney, the premium ads for across both domain and real estate combined, the agents get charged around $4,500. That gives you premium ads for 30 days. You get the premium ads, and then if within those 30 days or within the period of time that the premium ad is running, you haven't sold your home, you can actually withdraw your listing. This is the agencies can actually withdraw a listing and put it back on with the premium ad. That's a flexibility that they have. I don't know how that would work with those Buy My House, Sell Without an Agent type of websites, the no agent property type of websites. I don't know how it runs through them, but in the premium ads across Sydney are let's round it off to 5,000, and you can't get away from it. So if you use a real estate agent, that's what they'll be charging you across the board for the premium ads, plus $400 for the signboard on average, $400 for brochures and paraphernalia, then $600 or so for photography, drone shots, floor plan. They're all the fees. Some agents charge, pass on the direct fees. Other agents, they charge on top of that without disclosing what they're being charged. And then, of course, there's the option.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on the auctioneer in a second, but just on the costs of the marketing program, it's worth highlighting that you should push, if you do decide to use an agent, you should push them on breaking it down into its component parts so you can see precisely where the money is going. Quite often they will just bucket into a big number and not tell you, but actually it's worth teasing it out. And if you do decide to do it yourself, then there are resources available. And I think the point that we want to underscore is you have to get your property into the online environment one way or the other, because most prospective purchasers will be using online tools as the first pass filter of looking for property. So they don't, wander around agencies and look in the windows anymore. Most of it's done online. So you need to be in the online environment, but there are tools available, and you mentioned sites there. Some of those are actually quite good in terms of the support they provide. So they can give you some templates and they can give you some, basic help and assistance. Obviously not the same as if an agent was doing all the heavy lifting, but it actually is a sort of a bit of a middle path. And you almost always will have to use one of those sorts of sites to be able to get the property posted into the online environment. Now, you mentioned auctioneer, but there's a prior question. Should you actually run to auction, or should you run by private treaty? Now, that's an interesting question, of course, because many people up till quite recently felt that auction was a come to Jesus moment, if I can put it like that, which means that effectively if you get buyers, prospective buyers together, maybe they'll push the price up. I think things have changed a little bit. Tom Panis thinks things have changed a bit. And generally, I'm quite skeptical of whether auctions really do work, unless you've got a particular type of property with massive interest. The private treaty route can take longer. It's an unknown journey insofar that you don't necessarily have a drop dead date when the auction happens. So what's the pros and cons of auction versus private treaty, Edwin?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that a lot of people think that you, as a private individual, you can't run your own auction. You can run your own auction. You can actually be your own auctioneer. If you can sell your house without a real estate license, you can also be an auctioneer. Now, I checked that with two sources that check the Act and the regulations. Today, George was one of them, and another colleague of mine that's a solicitor / real estate agent as well. They both run RTOs, and they're both of the opinion that you can run your own auction. Go figure. You can go in direct competition with Tom Panos or Damien Cooley. you could run your own auction. Yeah, look, they're your two choices: private treaty, and auction. Obviously, with the auction, you've got that certainty where you're going to snag somebody in without a cooling off. The price on the day, they meet the 10% and they're locked in. Or if they buy before the auction, they're also locked into to no cooling off. Private treaty, the main difference there is that you've got a cooling off period. You can walk away. You just have to provide a 0.25% deposit if you exchange contracts on a private treaty, and before the cooling off period expires, you can, if you decide not to proceed, you lose your 0.25%. 0.25% it's still. Money's money, but at least it doesn't hurt as much if you buy something and you get all at auction, and then you decide not to proceed. Then you as they say, you drop the full 10%. You have to gauge what type. Obviously, you have to decide what type of property you have, what the appetite is in your area. So there's a lot of variables that will determine which way you go. But then. Outside of that, Martin, there are also different campaigns that you can run under the premise of private treaty and auction. Like you could have under private treaty, an auction's an auction, but under private treaty, you can run what we would otherwise call a silent auction or a Dutch auction. It's still under like a private treaty scenario, except you're playing off people. On the sideline, they're not. It's not a public auction as such, where then you're governed by different rules and regulations. So if you are going to have an auction, and if you got the cojones to have the an auction and be the auctioneer yourself. Well, you have to be well versed with the regulations around it. Because being a public auction, there are certain disclaimers that you've got to make. There are certain, you know, there's a whole gamut of conditions that you have to post up on the around the property so people can become aware of. So there's a criteria they have to follow because being a public event. But everything else on the private treaty, you probably many of our viewers have probably heard of the terms such as the expression of interest, where you express an interest in the property in terms of lodge or file an expression of interest. You've got, as I mentioned earlier, the silent auctions. Then you've got also price guides. Do you post a price guide? Do you don't post a price guide? Do you have what agents seem to get everybody, and when you ask them for a guide on the first week, they say, "Oh, we don't know. We're going to let the market dictate." And then once we get buyer feedback, then we'll let everybody know. I mean, it's a lot of hogwash. You're meant to know what you're meant to be within a range of the sale price anyway. But anyway, that just flies in the face of the regulations. But they're the different campaigns that you can run. Obviously, that's, as you said, you've got to really weigh out, and you got to think carefully which way you go. Many properties go to auction unnecessarily because predominantly, in the majority of the times, it's because the agent wants a quick sale. The agent wants a quick commission. It goes back to that ease. Do less. And get a quicker commission in your back pocket than working making the most of the campaign and what's in front and trying to achieve the best result. So so there are a lot of factors that you have to take into consideration, obviously. And I guess one of the main ones is the local sentiment. And see what's driving, because the last thing you want to end up is running an auction campaign as well. And when homes around your neighbourhood have had auction campaigns, and then they get passed in, or they end up in on the other post auction ledger under private treaty sales. So you got to be careful. Again, it's observing the market conditions, looking at the style of home, the type of home, and what your target market is.
Yes, and I think that in the current environment, certainly in some states in Australia, the auction clearance rates are quite low, and a lot of properties are being pulled off before auction as well. Interestingly, in the UK, the sealed bid approach, where effectively you say, by this particular date, if you're interested, make an offer, put in an envelope, and then we'll take the best offer, basically, it is actually taking quite a lot of traction at the moment, rather than either an auction or indeed a private sale treaty, because it sort of creates a crystallization point in terms of actually when the deal will or won't be done. So that's an interesting, and that development is moving quite fast in the UK. I'm not sure whether it will do the same in Australia.
Oh, yeah. Look, I mean, Tom is a funny bunch of people. So,
Watch it.
Each to their own. I mean, that's what I would call a silent. That's the old silent auction or Dutch auction. And then what happens if you don't achieve the reserve? Do you give them a second run? Do you advise people, say, look, we didn't match. The desired outcome wasn't met. Let's have a second run. There's I guess you could say there's criticism on all sides for every strategy. That's why I'm saying you just have to work out which one's going to be the best strategy moving forward. What you've got to put your best foot forward, right? And then many agents say, "Oh yeah, auction's the best way to go. Let's go to auction." Blah 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 blah, and then they end up with nobody on the day. Why? Because you've got to tack and weave. It's a strategy. A strategy means that you've got to tack and weave. You got to move. You got to roll. You got to counter. You got to dodge. You got to duck. But if you're just going to go out there with thinking that the first strategy you went to that's going to get you to the best and the end result, well, it's proven over and over again that it's not always the case. So this is a marketing campaign, a strategy from the preparation to settlement. It's an organism that's forever, that's moving. It's not rigid, if I could express it that way. It's moving. We negotiate with vendors or vendors' agents right up to the day of settlement, and there are different things that we negotiate from making the offer, the original offer on the property, to post the exchange contracts, whether it be bought at auction or private treaty, post the cooling off period, and moving on to settlement. We continue, our negotiation continues, but hey, that's because we know the ropes, you could say. We know how to tack, and it's not necessarily on. Well, often the case is we negotiate at the end on a reduction of price.
Edwin, I'm going to just take my delivery, so I'm going to switch full screen and leave you to talk. Okay?
Sure. So we're negotiating right to the end, because and it's not necessarily on a reduction of price. In a lot of the cases, it is, because there are certain things that that have been not as per the condition of the purchase. Rubbish is being left behind, and as I've shared, in the past with our followers and viewers, I've shared that getting rid of rubbish can be very, very expensive. So, negotiations for us continue right to the end, and this is where a lot of agents they just pick a path and they try to stick to it religiously, and if they don't stick to it, they think that they haven't done the right thing. And as I said, you just got to tack and weave. But that's in relation to the to the strategy. You've got to be very careful what you choose, and put some thought behind it, because often the case is whether it's a private treaty campaign or an auction campaign, it's not just about the campaign, it's also about the time that you've got to spend in open house inspections. You've got to give potential purchasers and the dream buyer, the more time they can spend on the house, the more emotionally they're going to get attached to the property, the more they're going to pay. So if you don't put the time, in there, well then you're not going to get the best result, whether you're a real estate agent or whether you're not. It's all about timing, and unfortunately, some of these campaigns and some of these strategies that agents use, it's not to get the best result. It's really to minimize time that they spend on the property, and in the negotiation stage.
Yeah, I'm back, Edwin. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I think that's a really, really important point. I've got another question which came up in the chat a little while ago. Was if you have an agent involved, to what extent does an agent do due diligence on the prospective purchaser? So, are you running risks if you're essentially negotiating with a prospective purchaser yourself rather than doing it via an agent? And does an agent do more than you could?
No, look. At the end of the day, you got a sense of knowing who's there's only so much that they will disclose, and people will disclose, whether it be to an agent or whether it be to yourself if you're going to sell. Now, the risk that selling the house yourself or real estate agents selling homes in a soft market, let's call it, is that you could have you could have the buyer, what we say, the term we use, you could have the buyer fall over. And so private treaty is more open to that than your auction campaign. Your auction campaign, effectively, if you're buying the property before auction with a 66W certificate, which means you waived the cooling off period, you're compelled to put down a 10% deposit. You may agree on a 5% deposit. But most of the time you're up for the full 10% anyway. So yeah, that is where auctions have it over private treaty, is you're minimizing your potential deal falling over. But if somebody is you're selling the property under private treaty, and they're going to you're giving them look, the contract stipulates 5 days cooling off, 5 business days, but because of the way that funding is at the moment, we can get anywhere between 7 and 10 days is the norm. But when people start asking for extensions, you know that there's something wrong. You know that the finances are up to speed. Something's amiss. The other thing is somebody may have got overly heated, and they've offered way more than the valuer is prepared to value the property at. But look, I think that's the amount of deposit that you're taking, the commitment that they have. You can check. They'll give you a story. People will give you a story as to where they're from. And for us in general, if we want to secure the deal, and if we want to jump the queue and be first cab off the rank to get the property, for our clients, we'll get permission from our clients to disclose. I'll go in, and pretty much say, listen, my client is ready, willing, and able, and our LVR is only 50%. Or as a matter of fact, there is no loan necessary because the money's in the bank. As a commitment, this is here's the 10% with the 66W and the signed contract at this price, and that would be that. In many cases, has enabled us to buy the property, as I said, first cab off the rank, be first choice. Even from somebody, we've taken it away from somebody that's offered somewhat more for the property, but because they wanted to exchange on a cooling off period, and obviously for the agent, security trumps the potential. The potential issues that you could have if the first buyer falls over, and then you've got to go through the whole marketing campaign again, and you got to and people start wondering what's wrong with this property. It's not about what was wrong with the previous buyer. It's what's wrong with the property. It works through. I think if you're in the market, if you're going to be buying, because of the values of properties now, even 0.25% hurts, let alone a 5 or 10%.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm pretty skeptical actually about the value of agents when it comes to representing specific buyers. I've seen some very, very bad examples where they really don't understand the prospective buyer. Now, whether that's because the buyer has actually not told them the truth themselves, or whether the agent is making it up, I have a feeling that sometimes they're a bit creative with regard to the prospective buyer trying to convince you to transact, right? Whatever, right? So I'm quite skeptical of that. But there is also another point, of course, if you actually are going to be paying that deposit over. In the case of an agent, the agent holds the deposit. If you're buying without an agent, then that's another issue you've got to work out, right? And I guess you're going to need legal advice, or maybe get your lawyer involved in doing that.
The thing to do there is obviously the purchaser's going to have the purchaser's the purchaser and potentially the purchaser's legal representative is going to sort of do a double take. But look, at the end of the day, it gets held. I've had many cases where we've bought properties without the intervention of an agent, and the deposits are held in the trust account of the solicitors. You can nominate which solicitor it's held on. You know, the old saying goes, possession is 9/10 of the law. But look, the legal eagles, the legal fraternity, don't fool around with that side of things, especially. And let me say that not all lawyers and conveyancers have trust accounts either. So then you got to choose a lawyer or a conveyancer that has a trust account and is willing to take. You may get charged more for the conveyance, but it's a price you pay to reduce the $30,000-$40,000 commission. You still have to pay fees. People have got to understand if you're going to sell your property on your own, there are still professional fees and marketing fees that you need to pay in order to be able to help you to achieve the best outcome. By you selling the property. I've always had a notion, say that this belief that the best buyer, the best seller of a property is the owner. If in its literal sense, in its literal, but the unfortunate thing is as an owner seller, you also have to disassociate yourself from the emotional attachment to the property, and that means you have to be cold, almost cold, in order to. You have to take in insult, because people can be very vicious out there, and more to the point. And that is really a strategy against selling agents. You can make selling agents buckle, because, as I say, from a buyer's agent point of view, is I want a particular message to be conveyed to the vendor, and my channel of communication is the real estate agent. Obviously, you do it with respect, and to make them look good, to help them to create a story. Hence the reason why I put my offer for Albo's property in writing, in text, and said, in a nice way, in a nice, polite way, hey, I'm only offering 1 million. My client's only offering 1,730,000. It's the economy, stupid. So that's just something that. But you have to be somewhat thick-skinned if you're going to sell the property yourself.
Yeah, and a couple of observations there. The first is, if you do actually go the route where you're doing it yourself, you're going to have to be there for the open home. You can't get around showing people around, right? You got to do it. But you're right. You need to detach yourself slightly from selling them. All of the spin on what you think is great about the property. You've got to actually let them open the cupboards and point to the sort of the bad bits too. I mean, that's part of the process. So you need to be a little bit thick-skinned to be able to do that. The other point, I think, just to re-emphasize, you still absolutely you've got to have legal support. So you need to get a proper contract drafted by, your legal representative, and they will be actively involved through the transaction. You can't avoid that. So like us or not, that's part of the process too. But the relatively small fee from the legal quarter pales into insignificance when you think about the sorts of fees that an agent traditionally will charge. And I think I'll just put this up from Be Right Agent, because it's a good point. And in fact, I had them on my show a couple of weeks ago. So that not all agents charge the same. So find the find the lowest cost. Ask them hard questions, and the bit like Be Right, for example, is one tool where you can actually sift the different options and different price points from agents.
Yeah, but the lowest commission doesn't necessarily mean the best result.
That's a very good point. Yes.
So you can you can pay the lowest commission. Listen, there are real estate agents that you know that will in a really slow listing market. In other words, where there's very little listings available, that they will list the property uh, for 0.5%. I know for a fact that there are some prominent real estate agents in the eastern suburbs and in the lower North Shore that have taken on listings of properties with no commission other than the marketing fee in order to get a signboard on the street, because you can't go without presence. You've got to real estate agents have got to own their patch, as they say. You've got to have the ownership of the patch. So to make the premise that the lowest commission-based agent is going to get the best result, I don't buy that, unfortunately. To also, as I said earlier on, to make the premise that you're going to get a true value, a true indication of the value of your property on an online portal. I mean, you can whistle Dixie. That flies in the face of, in New South Wales anyway. In New South Wales, I can tell you now that flies in the face of the regulations. In order for an agent to give you an opinion of the property, to give you a CMA, a comparative market analysis, and give you an opinion to the value of the property, should they take the property to market, they have to visit the property. You can't do it without visiting the property, and you can't, you might have, you could do it through video cam, you could do all this sorts of swanky stuff as well, but hey, you'd be a fool to take an agent on that is prepared to do that anyway, because I wouldn't if I was a selling agent, I wouldn't participate in that because one, I'm a stickler for the regulations. Two, I need to get the feel of the place. I need to get to to walk around. If you're going to engage a selling agent, you basically, the selling agent has to be convinced of the product. Most selling agents fail in the role because they themselves are not convinced of the product, right? So if the agent is not convinced of the product, then they just got it just to fill in the gap because they don't have any listings, and they'll do it at a reduced price. As I said, look, the average commission across Sydney is 1.5%. Now you can haggle that down, but from, I guess this is my real estate hat on and supporting real estate agents in a way, if I'm allowed to do that. I wouldn't be so much as negotiating on reducing the commission price as much as I would be negotiating on what they do in order to to get me the best price. In other words, how much time and effort are they prepared to pay? Are they going to put skin in the game? I'll tell you what I used to do, Martin, when I was in working the office as a selling agent. In a lot of the cases, and I dare say, and I'm being frank about this, I would, 60% of the time, 70% of the time, my business partners didn't like it. I used to have, monthly, wars with them over it. I used to put skin in the game. In other words, if, when I was, I didn't reduce my commission, but what I did was I would say to the clients, if I don't achieve this price for you, I would wear the marketing fee, right? In other words, that's skin in the game. I would get our team of tradespeople that I've had for decades. I'll get our team of tradespeople to help our vendors, to help them with the makeover of the property, and I would carry that. I would make my office carry that until the property was sold. That's skin in the game. So, and that's a sort of what people need to look for if you're going to go down that route, right? So, but from the point of view of you selling the property, this is what I'm saying. You've got skin in the game yourself, but you've got to put in the time, and you've got to put in, you've got to pay certain fees. There are certain fees that you have to pay. You can't get away from. There are certain disclosure statements that you're compelled to give. You can't abscond them because obviously then the whole contract can fall over, and there's certain regulations that you need to make yourself aware of in order to sell. There are certain disclosures that you have to make by law. So now you don't necessarily just come under the Property Stock and Business Agents Act. You also come under consumer law, and there are certain disclosures. As I said, and but if you're doing all this, and there's certain certificates, warranties that you have to provide, or that your lawyer will assist you in to provide anyway. That has to accompany the contract of sale, because otherwise, without a lot of these things, the sale could potentially fall over, and this is where you've got to be careful. One other point there, Martin, in terms of selling the home yourself, and in terms of the legality of this whole thing, you've also got to, from the standpoint of view of a selling agent. So when the selling agent takes carriage of the property for sale, the selling agent's insurance kicks in. Right, when they're doing the open house inspections, the selling agent's insurance kicks in. So now you're opening up your place to the public, so therefore you've got to either advise your home contents insurer. You got to make sure you got home contents insurance, and you've also got to make sure that you minimize the trip hazards. I mean, selling agents have to do that anyway. There's a lot of case law against selling agents that didn't disclose certain dangers or certain trip hazards, certain hazards around properties, and people are being injured. And the most recent case is a real estate agent that went to attend an open house from another real estate agent, went head over turkey, fell over, injured her hip and arm, and walked away last year, I think it was, with $400,000 pay packet, because the agent didn't disclose that the driveway had been freshly painted. Foolishly, the owner didn't paint the driveway with the proper anti-slip paint. It was raining. The agent said to this potential buyer, "Yeah, you can park in the driveway." She parked in the driveway, thinking, he was doing the right thing by her. Got out of the car, and and the rest is history. $400,000 later, and the agent's insurance had to pay for it. So you've got that to contend with. So you've got to make sure how far you go. It's up to each individual. How far you go as to disclosing what you're doing to your insurer, and it might be even worthwhile getting public what do you call it?
Public liability.
Public liability for that period.
Yeah.
For that period of time. Talk to your insurance company. But that's something that hasn't been tackled with a lot of these websites, or it may have been. Like I said, I'm not up to date with what they provide. But that is, to me, a big issue.
Yeah. I must underscore that the public liability aspect of this is quite significant. As you say, the agents have insurance protection, which allows them to do stuff. So if you do it privately, again, that's another factor. And look, the bottom line in all of this, Edwin, is to sort of think about the whole story is it's not a silver bullet to use an agent, but neither is it a silver bullet to do it all yourself, right? There are going to be compromises, and there are going to be complexities, whichever route you go down. And, you might save a little bit on the commission, but then do you actually give up any of that on the price? That's question one. And then, of course, how much of your own time are you going to commit to doing this? Because if you're going to have a run of a series of open house inspections, that's going to cost you time and effort, as well as the preparation beforehand and cleaning up and everything else, and that in itself can be quite time consuming. So it's a trade-off about what time have you got, how much do you want to try and save those fees versus what you might get back if you're successful. So it feels very much a grey area here that, there is not one right answer here.
No, yeah, there are issues. There are legal issues that you have to, contend with. There are things that you have to make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's, which agents are meant to have be all over it, right? But unfortunately, they're not. And this is so. Look, if I can give myself a plug and to help bridge these two areas. What we've been doing for the last 15, 18 months, more often is I've somewhat gone back, perhaps over the last 15 months more so. I've gone back to helping old clients and also referral clients in assisting them with the sale of their properties. So we don't take carriage. I no longer take carriage of the actual marketing campaign. But what we do as consultants is we assist with the process that we've been navigating through, the preparation, the marketing, the managing. We actually manage the sales process that's being handled by real estate agents. We negotiate on the fees to a point. Obviously the commission fee, but more so the marketing fee and what they do, how they do it, the reporting. So we manage that process, and we also stay with the vendors who've used us as a consultant to help them basically sift through all the BS reports that they get, in order to also make a clearer, more informed decision as to whether or not they're going to accept the price. So that's what I've been doing more so over the last 15 months. We found that a lot of people don't have the networks to help them to, as I said, just to give the house a simple makeover in order to achieve a better price. At the end, they don't have the contacts with the photographers, with the stylists and everything else as well. Now, I'm not saying that like I said, I don't take carriage. We manage the process from bringing in the tradespeople to help them at an agreed reasonable price. And I manage myself and Melanie and Linda and Chris. They help me manage that whole process with the trades, in order to then obviously then try to bridge that one. But I feel with, say, up to or pre-pandemic, the notion. I would sort of think, people said, it was a lot easier to sell your own home. But now with all the litigation, with all the pressure, with the price points that we're at, people's emotion and the need, unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say, but I don't believe that all the bases are covered. And if you want to make that compromise, you want to take that position. But I think there are better. You can sell the home yourself and take certain risks. But I think you need to mitigate all those potential risks, and more so around insurance, because there is so much at the moment in NCAT. And I'd say it would probably be the same at VCAT and in the tribunal in Queensland as well, with so many issues as to complaints in terms of basically hazards and injuries that people have been sustained over attending open house inspections, and this is an industry that is, as I said, that have insured. We've got professional indemnity, public liability. We carry those. I mean, our insurance is, just a bit over $10,000 per annum in order to cover us for what we do, and that's from a buyer's agent point of view, let alone from selling and having all these open homes. And some of the stuff that I've seen, Martin, it just makes your hair stand up because of the selling agents and vendors are basically playing with fire, as the saying goes. With some of the stuff that I've seen that goes out there, where you've got drops of 20, 30 feet at the end of people's backyards, and there's no fence. You've got little kids running around, and families bring their kids, and the little kids are running around in the backyard waiting for mum and dad to inspect the inside of the house. I mean, this is the sort of stuff that you've got to be wary about.
No, spot on. I mean, there are trips and traps for the unwary there, and that's why I say I don't think there's a silver bullet answer one way or the other. But if you are a prospective vendor thinking of selling, the steps we've been talking about, whether you use an agent or not, are pretty much the same. If you do effectively decide to go without an agent, there are some extra liabilities that you take on as the prime mover, and therefore you need to make quite sure that you cover all those bases, as we've touched on. And at the end of the day, of course, the sale, whether it proceeds or not, will be determined by whether there is a buyer who actually wants the property and whether the price point is relatively realistic. And that's true whether you go yourself or whether you go via an agent. And, those universal parameters actually don't change much at all. So that's the other thing to bear in mind. Any last thoughts, Edwin, before we close the show in terms of things we haven't covered but should have covered?
No, look, there's a lot there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to do. I shelved a project I had, about somewhat 19 years ago. I was actually writing a book, and it was titled The ABCs and Ds of Buying and Selling Real Estate. And now that we've done this show, I've got to go and get all my notes. I've got two files of notes. Started putting it together with an old friend. There was a marketing manager for an old marketing manager for Apple and that, and because it was obviously everyone's got a fascination about property, and I started rambling on about it, and then we came up with that title. So look, it's sort of jogged my memory. Maybe it's time I revisit that and maybe finish the book. But there's so much to talk about, so much to write about. As I said, and there is no, like you say, there's no silver bullet. But in that, I guess, even going back through the thoughts that we've just shared, with our followers and our viewers, is there's a lot of areas that you need to negotiate, and you can negotiate and save more, and not only save but also make more money on the end sale than just the totally disregarding the selling agent, because you think that you're going to be paying them a 1.5% commission of $2 million property, so $30,000 of it. So there's other things that can be done in order to but you just have to be active. You have to be an active participant. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that when you're a vendor. A lot of agents talk in Swahili. Not everybody understands Swahili or Martian, but a lot of them talk in that sort of language, and they do it purposefully. And this is what we try to do. We try to sort of bridge that by managing that whole process, so that, and even with our consultancy fee that we charge on top of the commission that the agent charges and the marketing fees, we believe that the outcome by saving on the marketing, on the pre-marketing renovations to achieving the higher price, we can show you where the benefits are. And I think that's, in my view, and obviously being something that I've been working on for the last 15, 18 months, is the middle ground. And I say this I say this because of the insurance issues, the litigation, potential litigation that a lot of people could get themselves, caught in. But watch this space, because from that, I've teamed up with a programmer. And just watch this space, Martin, because there's another surprise coming to tag onto that, to minimise, to get better outcomes and get licensed real estate agents to provide better outcomes for vendors, and it'll be a win-win situation. So watch this space.
Okay, sounds very interesting. Well, Edwin, I want to say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts again tonight, and 2 days in a row, of course, as well. But really interesting. And, I think, to underscore, there are no silver bullets here, but there are a series of significant questions that you need to ask yourself if you're going to potentially sell your property. And as you say, the commission element is only a small proportion of the total value of the transaction overall. And you want to try and optimize it the best you can. So I want to say thank you, Edwin. Thank you for your time tonight. And I'll look forward to ranting with you next Monday, which should be fun. And I'm going to take you offline now, and I'm going to close the show. See you later.
Ciao.
There you go, folks. I hope you enjoyed that, and really interesting conversation about all things property related, and whether you should do it yourself or whether you shouldn't. Now, next week, just to say that Damien Klassen will be on, and we're going to be talking there about the financial markets. Of course, the RBA decision will be out on Melbourne Cup Day, and there'll be some interesting debates also with what's happening in the US ahead of the election there. So that'll be an interesting conversation to have next week. And I want to say thank you very much for spending some time with us this evening. Jason, thank you very much for your super chat. Really appreciate. As always, it really helps to oil the wheels here. And I'll look forward to seeing everybody next week on the live show. And of course, check out the recorded shows in the interim. From a dog perspective, Meteor's sitting by my feet. So you've only got one dog, but Luna now is rearing up ready for lunch, which will be the next thing on the agenda. So that'll be going to happen relatively soon. Anyway, thank you very much for spending some time with us this evening. Hope you found that informative, useful. Please like and share the post, and I look forward to seeing you on the next show. This is Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, signing off. Cheerio.